CHCH and Parent Media site. This is the Sportsline Podcast. Thank you so very much for joining us. I'm Bubba O'Neil. Our focus, athletes, executives, officials, and teams who hail from Southern Ontario and are making a name for themselves. Folks, the summer weather is finally upon us, but in this country, that means CFL football. Well, from the time he approached me about job opportunities at CHCH way back in 2017, I just knew there was something special about this kid. In fact, he checked off all of the boxes. A high-level athlete in his own right. A fan of all sports. Plenty of prior experience in many areas of media. A great attitude without the ego and this likable approach to always wanting to ask questions and learn. 3 years ago, he left us to become the editor-in-chief and reporter at 3DownNation, which covers the CFL better than the CFL itself. And like I do with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, he's the pre- and post-game host of the Saskatchewan Roughrider games with 620 CKRM. Fresh off the golf course, Justin Dunk, always a pleasure. Always great to have you back here at home.
My man, pleasure to be back. I had to make time for you, but the backwards hat is because I was on the golf course. Anything for you, dude. I'll fit you in.
How'd you shoot?
I haven't added it up yet, but I think I was like high to mid 80s. Well, I had to get here. I was late for our time, dude. Okay. Birdied 18. That was the high note. Hey, always finish up strong. You would know that, for crying out loud. Hey, I got to ask you, first of all, what's up? And when I look at those pictures that you would see, HCH, you still got great memories, I would hope? Man, that brings back some goosebumps. I mean, dunking on Nicole Martin, all the fun we had on the weekends, the stuff that I learned from you and the crew here, but I got to say especially you, I will never forget. So looking at those memories, it was some special times, and it was a very memorable time in my career where I was able to learn, and CHCH entrusted me with doing the weekend sports. And you know well, you got to cover the region. So we tried to do as many of those stories as we did. From Shea Gilgeous-Alexander all the way on down to like the Little League baseball tournaments that were going on locally.
And it's funny you bring up Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. You did a report with him coming back home, and I think he was giving out backpacks or whatever for young kids. And I mean, when you look at Shea back then and then see where he's come now, I mean, even for yourself, it has to be mind-blowing.
It definitely is. I remember part of that report, we talked about him going to that downtown YMCA in Hamilton, and that's where he honed his game. So when you see him being named the NBA MVP and on the verge of potentially winning a title with the OKC Thunder, it makes you think that, honestly, whatever you want to do in your life, it's possible. Broadcasting, sports, scientist, lawyer, doesn't matter. You put your mind to it, doesn't matter where you come from, you can do it.
Let's talk football there, my man. Riders 31-26 week one victory over a very game Roughriders, that Red Blacks team. Oh my goodness, go back in the day. They actually battled back from 31-14 whole. Your thoughts on the team that you cover in that contest?
You know, overall, I think Corey Mace would say that they wish they won the turnover battle for sure, and he would want to see them finish stronger. But he said in his post-game remarks inside the locker room that a lot of guys learned that the CFL is a roller coaster, and it's up and down and up and down. And it is, because as you know, the possessions can change so quickly. So I think overall, if you're a fan of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, you think that's a pretty good start to the season. You get the win over a team in the Ottawa Red Blacks who a lot of people were picking to get to the Grey Cup. Things look a lot different now. 0-1, Drew Brown out for week 2. We'll see what happens with them. But Saskatchewan is a team that's very deep and I think has an opportunity to be a legit contender. They got to prove it, and some key guys have to stay healthy, namely Trevor Harris. I think he can. But the Riders, I thought looked pretty good, all said and done in week 1.
What really impressed me is that when the game started to get tight, I thought that's when Saskatchewan's defense were at their very best.
Indeed, and you could see at the start, Drew Brown went right down the field in that first drive, opening the game up 7-0, and you're kind of like, oh my gosh, are they just going to throw it all over the park? And he did. He threw for over 400 yards. But Corey Mace kind of employs this defense where it's bend but don't break, don't give up the big play, and sort of feel yourself into the game. And that's what happened. You could see them really clamp down and tighten up late. They were getting Drew Brown off his spot a little bit and making him uncomfortable and dialing up some great blitzes, like Jameer Thurman shooting through the middle. That's a great rush by him, but it's also a great timely call by Corey Mace to get him free. So I think that's the calling card of this defense. You know, there's a veteran secondary there. Jameer Thurman's a great leader, and I think they have some underrated pass rushers that should get better as the season goes.
If you take your Riders hat off and then go to your 3-down hat right now, because you do understand the league and the dynamics and the particular issues or things that are going on in all of the markets in the Canadian Football League. First things first here, what is the expectation this season, coming off a playoff year last year, of the Saskatchewan Roughriders for the people in Saskatchewan?
It's to get to the Grey Cup and win it. A lot of people are talking about that it's their time, and Corey Mace's motto was on the clock, meaning that they believe 2025 is their time to win a Grey Cup championship. So that's what the Riders fans believe. Is that legitimate? I think so. But you have a quarterback in Trevor Harris and some other pieces there that need to prove they can get it done, right? Trevor Harris has not yet won a Grey Cup as a starter. He's been part of a Grey Cup team in 2016 with the Ottawa Red Blacks. When Henry Burris was there, he was the backup, but Trevor Harris...
He almost started that game.
Yeah, he played a lot. It was pretty close in that game, and Henry Burris had a memorable performance. So, I think it's definitely legitimate talk, but man, the proof's in the pudding, as Mama would say. You got to go out there and do it.
There are questions that I must throw to you. There was an announced attendance of over 25,000 at Mosaic Stadium or Mosaic Field there. But I saw, I think that building is a little over 33.
Yep.
I thought it was half full, which for Rider fans shocks me. And I know it became a sort of bulletin point for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who claim to be the greatest fans in the Canadian Football League.
Indeed. Hey, the Blue Bombers fans are showing it. They packed that house there in Winnipeg all the time. And in Saskatchewan, there has been some legitimate talk about this. Now, the important part to know, Regina is somewhat of a smaller city, right? So 50% of the fans travel from outside the Queen City to come to these games. So every time I've been in Regina for a Thursday night game, has not been, let's say, very well attended, and it would fall below, the expectations for Saskatchewan. So I think when you look at that combination, how far fans usually travel in the Thursday night games, kids are going to school the next day, people have work on Friday morning, but at the end of the day, you don't see the Winnipeg Blue Bombers fans making excuses. They pack that house regardless, and I think on Thursday night when the BC Lions come to town, it'll be darn near close to a sellout, and you'll hear those fans. So, I understand it that people see the empty seats, but when you really start to understand, how far these fans are coming from, I think the average is 3 hours away. And there's fans that I talk to that come from 6, 7, 8 hours away. There's one couple that I see every time I go there for the home games that drives from Calgary for every single game.
Wow.
Preseason, regular season, playoffs, doesn't matter how bad the weather is. That's 8 hours one way.
Yeah.
That's the type of dedication the Riders fans have. So I think you need to try to get as many games on Fridays and Saturdays in Saskatchewan. That's their preferred time, I believe, is Saturday afternoon, because it works so well for the families, and even obviously Friday nights because you can make a weekend of it, go into the big city in Regina. But this one was more for TV. Right, we can start the season in the prairies. There'll be a lot of hype. I'm sure the television number, I don't have it yet, but I bet it was pretty big for that game too.
All right, let's switch gears to the home team in this market. And the Hamilton Tiger Cats lose to the Stampeders at McMahon Stadium 38-26. And I did notice that they have plummeted down 3DownNation's power rankings. Now, honestly, I have my question marks about the CFL and even the 3-down power rankings. But it does lead me to ask this question. There was an expectation that you guys had in the preseason of the Tiger Cats based on your evaluation of the team, yet you were left disappointed. I would ask you that.
Definitely. I felt, honestly, we had the Tiger Cats too high in our power rankings going into the season. We had the BC Lions behind them. I was like, I don't think this is deserved, because you look at the Tiger Cats defense, it has to get way better. You look at week one, Vernon Adams Jr. didn't throw a bunch of touchdown passes and they intercepted him, but Dedrick Mills looked really good, and the Stampeders put up, as you said, almost 40 points. The defense has to get better, and honestly, the ratio's an issue. When you're starting, with all due respect, Isaiah Bagna, a fresh, raw rookie at defensive end, that's not an ideal situation to have. With all due respect to Devin Verasuk as well, he's a high pick, second overall, but you don't necessarily want to have to throw those guys in there. And Scott Milanovic had some pointed words about those guys, but I don't.
They were few.
They were, but I also don't think it's fair to throw those guys in there right away. But the Ticats are in a situation where they have to because of the ratio. So that's why I think some of our contributors and the guys that work on the site full time felt like, I'm not sure about this Ticats team. Yeah, there's a lot of hype about Bo Levi Mitchell throwing for well over 5,000 yards last year, but there was a reason that he had to do that.
Your thoughts on the special teams? I know that really was a bit of an issue for many.
I think that obviously Isaiah Wooden had the great kick return. I think it was 105 yards back to the house. But this is a phase of the game that too often doesn't get focused on, I think, by the fans. Even the CFL hardcores, they get so enamored with the offensive and defensive players, and rightfully so, because that's where the stars are. But you have to make your plays on special teams. It's an official third of the game in the Canadian Football League. You can flip the field. You can set up short fields for your offense. You can make it a long field for your offense to go to get points. Like, there are so many key factors that special teams plays in the game, and the Ticats just simply got to be better there.
It's funny because we, as media people, tend to continually put the focus on offense, then the defense, and in the Canadian Football League, the special teams really just as important as the other two aspects of the game.
It is, man. You look at Mike O'Shea, goes from special teams coordinator to being a head coach, and the way that he manages the game is a major reason why the Bombers have been so good. He's playing that field position game. It's like playing chess versus checkers. Like, it's a much different game when it's Mike O'Shea managing field position. He's playing chess. Some other guys in the CFL, I hear, are playing checkers. If they don't start playing chess soon enough, the Bombers are going to stay on top again.
It leads me to this, then. It's hard to get to this because it's so shocking to me. We have a board that we can put up here to show the Tiger Cats slow starts. I dated back to 2019, right? Okay, 2019, where they had that outstanding 15-3 team. You know this. Look at this win-loss record, and I hear a lot of coaches that they want to break down the season into thirds. So I did so for the first 6 games of the regular season. Now, if you add what's happened this week, they are now 4-15, I believe. Like, what do you say here? 4-15.
Like, this has gone through multiple regimes, so it's difficult to break down, right? And I think
the trend continues.
It definitely does. I think it's fair to expect that the Ticats were going to come out, flying on offense. Not only were they one of the most potent passing attack, one of the most potent offenses in the CFL last year, but it's the same coordinator in Scott Milanovic, same quarterback in Bo Levi Mitchell. You brought back the majority of your pieces. You added Kenny Lawler and Liam Dobson, who are all-stars in their own right. So you would have thought, hey, yeah, they go out and easily drop 30. That didn't happen, I think, for a number of reasons. But there is something that, I hate saying, but that is systemic here with the Ticats with these slow starts. And it's difficult because then you use up so much energy trying to get it back. And we've seen this happen with Ticats so many times, right? Start the season slow. I think of like the June Jones era. June Jones comes in, and then they go on a great run and fall short of the playoffs.
They did it last year.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, it was a game against I think they ripped off 5 of 6 down the stretch, and they had to win a game against Winnipeg. Needed to get some help, and they didn't win against Winnipeg at home. It's just strange to me because, like you said, there's multiple regimes. I think Scott Milanovic is a heck of a coach, but I can't believe he's not preparing his team properly. But these numbers would suggest that something's up.
I think he's preparing his team properly, especially on offense. But when I look at this team, it goes back to the ratio. You got some young guys playing. You have Brent Monson on defense, a new defensive coordinator. Guys are getting used to his system, right? You also have some new pieces back there. Deshaun Amos in the secondary, right? Guys that you've brought in that you've paid a lot of money to that might have known the scheme from back in the day in Calgary, in Amos's case, but that are getting used to each other. So it's not an excuse because in pro football, you're measured by your wins and losses. But this team has got to figure it out. Like, I wonder almost if you got to shake up training camp and not have it at McMaster. Do you need to go away like somewhere further to be a little bit more remote? Like, I'm just throwing out random ideas, but to bring the team together so you have that jump start to start the season, not a lull because, man, flat out Calgary whooped their butts.
All right, so a lot of that can change. This conversation can change with a win on Saturday against the Roughriders there in town. Roughriders actually 1-3 in their last 4 trips to, I guess we'll call it Hamilton Stadium now.
I was curious what you're going to say.
I love this matchup because to me it is, and I know Winnipeg are get upset with me, but I just think it's like the old school, most passionate fan bases and old school teams. And of course, they shared Ronnie Lancaster as a player over the years. Bo Levi Mitchell versus Trevor Harris. I love the matchup.
It is a great matchup, man. And it is not lost on the Roughriders how difficult it is coming to Hamilton. You know, Trevor Harris is one of the nicest guys you'll meet, and he said he hears it the worst from Tiger Cats fans about his wife, about his kids, about how old he is, all kinds of stuff. So Ticats fans can rest easy knowing that they give it to Trevor Harris the worst out of any fan base in the league, including Winnipeg. And I'm with you, man. It's an old school matchup. Both of these franchises are beloved by their fan bases, but I think right now these are two teams, potentially, that are in a key game of the season, but might be going in opposite directions. Like the Riders are legit Grey Cup contenders. The Ticats want to get there. Some people were picking the Tiger Cats to compete in the East and, you know, potentially come out of the East and go to the Grey Cup, which to me I think is getting way ahead of yourselves. But it's only been one game for Hamilton, and we know that offense can get hot with Bo Levi Mitchell. So I think it's a really intriguing matchup. The difference to me is you have a veteran quarterback in Trevor Harris in the second year in an offense for the first time in his career since 2018. Mark Mueller has a connection to Ronnie Lancaster, of course, going against what we talked about, a struggling, young-ish defense, and Brent Monson, who is trying to figure out how to use these chess pieces on his chessboard and move them around. And then when you look at, we should talk about special teams in a second, but Bo Levi Mitchell versus that Riders defense, Corey Mace is so multiple. He doesn't like to give up the big play over the top, so Bo Levi Mitchell is going to have to be patient, and I think he can be patient. But the Riders are pretty deep on defense, and they got a lot of talented playmakers in that secondary, by and large part, is together again for another season. They bring in Tavon Campbell, Canadian quarter who was in the NFL, who arguably makes them better from what they had last year at the corner spot. But the rest of the other 4 starters there are the same. You got Marcus Sales, Roland Milligan Jr. Seems like he should be cleared to play after he suffered a head injury last week. Nelson Lacombo at safety, and DeMarcus Fields is underrated at the field half spot. CJ Rivas, Jameer Thurman still in the linebacking core. Then you add Mike Rose in the middle. You got Shane Ray on the outside. Like, that defense is veteran and proven. So I think, to me, it's advantage Roughriders. But if Isaiah Wooden can flip the field and the Ticats play better on special teams and create some turnovers, they're right in the game.
Well, that's interesting that you'd say that, because I think by all accounts, everyone, when they look at the Tiger Cats and they say strength and weaknesses, the offense is the strength. So that'll be an interesting battle to watch. But like from the Tiger Cats standpoint, and you just kind of dusted on them a little bit too, the veteran. We had some stats up there as well too, the Bo Levi and Trevor Harris comparison. When you and you played quarterback for many years and excelled as a quarterback for many years at the university level and high school level, and I think you understand quarterbacks and their mindset. When you look at Trevor Harris, I mean, I can't wait to ask Matt Buckner and Simone Lawrence on my pregame show about why this guy, first of all, he's not particularly a great athlete at quarterback, right? And I say that in comparison to like a Vernon Adams Jr., who you just don't know where he's going to be, what spot he's going to be thrown from. You just don't know it. And he's unpredictable. But you know where Trevor Harris is going to be. I can think of myself as a down lineman. I know where I'm going. I know where my money is. Like, he's right in front of me. But yet the ball comes out so quick and on target. And as you've covered sports in this area as well, too, the Ticats in the postseason with him working at the Red Blacks, man, he's burned this Ticat teams many times. Like, what's so special about him?
It's that quick release. You know, there's a lot of talk, and I think they do deserve respect about the Saskatchewan Roughriders offensive line being so good last season with all the injuries they had, and even this year in training camp. Lost 2 guys, Sean McEwen and Philippe Gagnon, potentially for the season. Then they plug in an American rookie, Peyton Collins, at left tackle, and away they go. There's probably going to be a different guy there this week. But it's Trevor Harris's quick release. That's the key. He had one scramble last week where he got away from pressure. He would say he looked like Trevor Vick. I would say we should say he looked like Trevor Ham or Trevor Allen, for a CFL reference. But he gets rid of the ball so quickly. He dissects the defense. He has seen lots of things, but even when he sees a new look, the ball is out of his hand in rhythm. And he says what he likes about Mark Mueller's offense is there's always a solution. Now, I think it's a little bit cliche to use the word always, but I think lots of times in that offense there is, and Trevor knows the offense so well, being in it for the second year, that he can get that football out and releases it on time. Like the amount of times that you will see Trevor Harris double clutch in the pocket or have to crow hop up, in quarterback lingo, in the pocket is very rare. Perhaps they're designing a downfield shot, a pump and go, a double move, and that's built into the offense. But it is very rare to see Trevor Harris hold the ball in the pocket, longer than you could count steamboats. It's his quick release. That's his calling card. But it's also his processing speed and him from a mental standpoint. Like this guy is locked in with his film study. He's in the building early in the morning, going through it with his guys, the quarterbacks too, so that they're all on the same page. But the offense knows him so well, and he has a whole bunch of receivers that have been around him now for an entire season, plus this full training camp going into 2025.
No state secret, but how did the Ticats slow him down?
Yeah, I think if you can't get to him, you got to get your hands up. But also, I think that with a new offensive line, and Daniel Johnson is the guy, the name was escaping me before, but he's likely starting at left tackle, a Canadian guy who's on the come up, but you got to take advantage of those pass rush opportunities when you have a newbie in there. I think you run some games, get Isaiah Bagna going on some twists. Julian Hauser is a guy that's a veteran who I still think has a little bit of football juice left in him. So you just have to make him uncomfortable. And I think if you can disrupt some of the receivers' timing, there's not a lot of bump and run in the CFL, but a little push here before 5 yards, a little push there, or you can flash in front of Trevor Harris in a route, whether it's zone or man, or you have a robber or what have you. You just want to make him second guess. If you can start making Trevor Harris second guess, he's going to hold it a beat longer, and that gives your rush a chance to get home.
Saturday night, Hamilton Stadium. I think it's going to be a heck of a bowl game, and I think I don't think it's such a thing as a must-win in week 2, but boy, I think it's a must-win mentality. Seeing how spicy head coach Milanovic has been apparently after this win, he's not a happy camper, and Saskatchewan better look out. Let me throw this to you because we haven't really had an opportunity to talk about this. Stuart Johnson. We haven't talked. Last time you were here, we were kind of predicting who would be a good guy, and Stuart Johnson kind of comes out of nowhere. High-ranking executive at TSN, and he's come in as the new guy, and he certainly shows a lot of enthusiasm. But I also remember Randy Ambrosie had a lot of people in this corner, and there was a lot of enthusiasm for him. Mind you, he lasted 7 years on the job, which is a good long time for a Canadian Football League commissioner. Your thoughts on where the league can be, and just a little bit about the man.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by Stuart Johnston. There's still a runway for him to show us what he can do, and I think that's ultimately going to be his legacy, just as Randy Ambrosie's was, right? You can look at Randy Ambrosie's tenure and point to him helping get the most stable ownership in the league's history, but then you can also point to it and say Genius Sports was a disaster. Stuart Johnston is dealing with that mess. He went to the government and asked for up to $150 million with no plan, on and on. So I won't rehash that. But as for Mr. Johnston, I like his approach. He doesn't say things that aren't believable. Like, this is the famous one from Randy Ambrosie, right? He used to say, I get up every morning thinking about the players. It's like, bro, I get up in the morning and I think about what I'm going to have for breakfast. Okay, like, you think about the players every morning when you wake up for real? Like, people, come on. The fans are not.
He's thinking about the board of governors.
Exactly, right? He's thinking about keeping his job at the end. So Stuart Johnston, I had conversations with him on and off the record. He is as honest with you as he can be, right? For example, I asked him about the Canadian Football League salary cap. Is it in the $5.6 million range, or is it just over that $6.1 million range?
You don't even know.
No, well, Teddy Gavai, the general manager for the Hamilton Ticats, doesn't even know. So I asked him about it when he was on the pregame show going into week 1. He's just like, I'm more focused on this exciting football game, right? He's not going to give you BS. Yeah. He clearly don't want to answer the question, which says a lot. But then you ask him about the website, for example, the streaming issues that they had, the statistics. And he flat out says, if we want to be known as a major professional sports league, we have to have a working website. He didn't put a timeline on it like Randy Ambrosie did, because then what happens? The media is going to ask you, well, you said it was supposed to be done by this time. It's still not working. So I like Stuart Johnston's approach. He seems to be very well respected from the people that I've talked to that he either managed or were colleagues with at TSN and at Bell Media. You know, I'm talking about some salespeople behind the scenes. And I am intrigued, I think is the best word to say, about what he can do as the commissioner. There's a lot of things to do, but we all know what the major one is, and that is the media rights deal that ends after the 2026 season. And he's told me repeatedly a number of times that whenever you have an incumbent party and an incumbent partner, you give them first right of refusal first. So he's talking about TSN being the exclusive broadcaster for the CFL. But that deal, you know, that is how the league gets the majority of its money. Like without, you know, it's been reported in around $50 million from TSN. If that money's not there, the league's not operating. Plain and simple. So this is going to be a real key. But I like how to the point he's been. And he says he's on this 100 days of listening tour. He wants to go around every franchise. Like he was there with the Riders. Craig Reynolds actually picked him up from the airport, showed him around. And he wants to learn what's working, what they don't think is not working. Or sorry, I should say what they think is not working. And then actually take action and put a plan into place. And I think there's a lot more, to me, less hyperbole with Stuart Johnston. I think he's just about getting the job done.
It's funny, and I'm glad you answered the question about the website, because Justin, it annoys me because from two standpoints. I mean, I have two sort of gigs, if you want to say, and both of them, I need access to numbers and information to talk about players and teams on a statistical story, and it is upsetting to me that I cannot go to the CFL.ca website and get these numbers, at least reliable numbers. Now, when the games are on, they seem to be working, but like if I go right now, they're not working. It drives me crazy, and I think to myself, you know, you just talked about it in the very top. We cover a lot of local teams here. Why is it that the Ontario Lacrosse League website is more reliable when it comes to wins, losses, game stats, game logs than the Canadian Football Professional League? It is so upsetting to me, and I'm ranting and raving about it. But I'm ranting and raving because I feel like it's been going on a long time.
Way too long.
Right? And I'm not the only media member that's reliant on these statistics to do my job. So anyway,
I'll give you the behind the scenes on that real quick, okay? So First of all, and no, don't be sorry. It's valid. First of all, the major issue that people don't talk about with the CFL statistics is that there's other sites that pull from it. So, you know, I don't want to shill for anybody here, so I won't name like apps or other websites, but like major sports websites pull statistics from those sites now no longer can because it's not reliable. So what I heard in regards to what's going on with the statistics is that, you know, a little while ago or however long ago it was when the CFL had switched their statistics up before Genius Sports, I'll get to that in a minute, they ran the system that they had been running for an entire season along with the new system that they were planning to implement to work out all the bugs. Fair. What I heard, and this is hearsay, Genius Sports, you can talk to me about it if you want, I heard that they just plunked the Genius Sports system in there, and Genius Sports thought American football, Canadian football, systems should be able to work together. Bro,
no.
We got the Rouge. Oh. We got a 55-yard line, right? Like, we know all the differences of this field. It doesn't work that way. So that was, from what I've been told by people in the know, some of the major issues. But I'm like, how has it not been fixed? How have you not gone back to your old stat system that was working and then run the Genius Sports stat system, for example, alongside until it was reliable? Because the longer it goes on, and you and I know this, it becomes another joke about the CFL. Yes. Only in the Canadian Football League would the stats not work. On and on and on. And it's, I shouldn't say it's not fair to say it, but like some people in the league will say it's not fair to say it, but it's like, have your stats working. Like you said, the lacrosse league, my nephew's baseball league, the Guelph Royals, U11 team, they have better stats, man. Like, come on.
It's tough because what I end up doing, as you said, they are alternate, and I think some of them are alternate American sites where I do get my statistics from. But I mean, I don't have room on my little fonts and my studies and my mind to say unofficial. Because I like to go to the Canadian Football League thing, because then I feel those are the official statistics. So where I go somewhere else, it's unofficial, which to me is just not necessary. Anyway, I think we've made our point there. Mr. Johnston, if you're listening, you know what we're talking about here, all right? And I'd love to have you on the red couch here to break it down with you as well, too. This has been fun breaking it down with you, my man. I know we got a big game. We can be enemies for 3 hours in terms of the rivalries.
Hey, I'm unbiased. I don't pick games, man.
I know, me neither. I know you don't even do it under 3 down.
Nope.
You don't pick games. I don't either, dude. But I for about 3 hours, and I try to be unbiased here as well, too, at CHCH, as I have to be, even though we're the hometown team. But for 3 hours, I'm go Ticats. On the Ticat broadcast. I love it so much. It just gives me that freeness to be a home team cheerleader. And I think I kind of hear the same a little bit to you when I hear these post-game shows, which help me out here. The post-game show on the Ticats audio network is half an hour. Are you going like 3 hours at the end of a game?
So the network broadcast is 8 hours long. 3 hour pregame show. And then we're supposed to only go 2 hours postgame, but it depends on how long the game takes. But I mean, you get so many callers in there, text messages. Now the home games, we're doing a live stream. It's up on YouTube and sportscage.com as well. And people are commenting there. So it's hard because you want to get Rider Nation's opinion in there. So yeah, you're right. Like, it's easy to go 2.5, sometimes 3 hours. And it's like, you've already done a 3 hour pregame show plus the game call. Like, I'm not doing the play-by-play, so I get a little bit of break. But like, to be honest, you know what it's like to be in broadcasting. Like, I come into that and I'm like, I just want to go to bed.
It's a full day's work, man. Like, you feel like the players, you'd work longer than the players did, for crying out loud. Oh, well. Anyway, look forward to seeing you this Saturday. Good luck to the Riders and Rider Nation and all the people that are out there. I know you work with some real good people out there. Did a podcast with Ballsy the other day, who's still supporting the Riders as well, too. Thank you for joining us, Justin.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you bringing back some of those memories, bro. The feel is always good at CHCH.
Appreciate it, my man. That's your Sportsline Podcast for the day. And if you've just seen and heard, we love talking sports, especially people that carry it with passion. If you do know of an athlete, team, or event that deserve the spotlight, this podcast, do want to hear from you. Do us a favor, hit that thumbs up, like, and share button, and be sure to subscribe, because you'll always get the latest and greatest edition. In addition, be sure to check out all the other podcasts here on CHCH, like Newsmakers. For the outstanding people that make this Sportsline Podcast possible, thank you so very much. And we'll see you next week.